Good morning. Welcome to today's RC Coffee Chat. Now, those of you thinking, Matt, where's your rag the nuts off mug? It's just there, but it's got yesterday's coffee in it. And, happy days. And I know I'm going to get a ribbon off Dave for saying happy days. Sorry, it's just one of my sayings. Anyway, right, on to today's topics. We have the C1 Chaser is built. To answer the question, do I need to laminate my model? That was a topic which came up yesterday. Oh my goodness me. Yeah. That is a whole topic in itself. And we've got a couple of tabs open to look at a couple of models as well. We've also got my music open here this morning as well. So I was having a classic morning. Anyway, right. C1 Chaser Finished. Now, I've already put some photos of this in the Facebook group. She is now complete. There is one thing which I want to share with you is the video transmitter up here, which I sincerely hope that you can see on the webcam, is that I always put a mechanical fixing around my video transmitters. The reason being, it always feels like it's the one thing which is, if anything's going to get ripped out, it'll be the video transmitter. And I always put a cable tie around the actual device itself, okay? I've also put some laminate over the cables as well to keep that nice and watertight in there. But I always put a cable tie around it. And a little note, it's one of those releasable cable ties or cable straps, whatever you could know them as. Now, I've done the electronics inside, so we'll see that we've got an eagle tree vector in there and a nest of wires. Now, to be honest, it looks pretty bad, but it's actually quite neat, at least for me anyway. Now, the only thing which I would have done differently so far is this webcam, or the run cam on the top, is that if I was to do one thing differently, I would have mounted that into the foam and mounting it down, just like I did on the micro SkyHunter, is that I would have mounted that further down and attached it to the plywood board underneath the hood. So that's the only thing which I'm not happy with. I don't know if I'm going to go back and change that, but right now she is due her FPV maiden. I do need to tweak the settings on the run cam, Owl Plus, and yeah, that's it. We're ready to go with her now. I do need to uncut the holes underneath so we do get some air to go through it. Because I'm pretty sure that ESC is going to get rather toasty with my flying style. So the C1 Chaser, yeah, happy days. She's good to go now, minus a stab with a knife and a quick whirl around with the iron. Now this does bring us on to the question, which this came up in, I think it was in the comments for the actual episode as well, which was, do I need to laminate my model? And the frank answer is no, you don't. It's not a requirement at all for you to laminate your models. But there are some benefits to laminating your models, and I'm sure others can chip in this in the comments as well. But for me, there were 4 points, well, 4 main points. Number one, it keeps the model in better condition. And that was actually my primary, well, there's 2 reasons why I laminated this model. The first one was because I wanted her to stay pretty, okay? Just keep her in better condition. The other one is, and my other reason was, I wanted a stiffer airframe. And you'll notice this on EPP models more than EPO, but I wanted some more rigidity. What I noticed with this model specifically is that the wings had quite a lot of flex in them. So I tackled that in 2 ways. I put the carbon fiber strips in the actual wings themselves on both sides, so that stiffened it up massively. In fact, even just pushing it in with no glue, it made a massive difference. So they've been CA glued in there now, and then with the laminate on top, it is really like rigid now. So that was my 2 primary reasons. But there are other benefits to laminating them, such as protecting the electronics components. So that receiver over there is completely sandwiched in there, and it's never going to come out. In fact, I was a little bit worried that whether I banged it or not. And thank goodness Matt had actually bound it and it locked on with the transmitter straight away, and we were able to, or put it this way, I didn't have to dig it back out again. So protecting the electronics components, and another reason where you might want to laminate your model is because it's a fantastic base for other finishes. Okay, so for example, you might wanted to paint your model. Okay, so you could put a plastic painting on top, scuff up the surface first, and then put a spray paint on top, or you could use the clear base as then a base to put on coloured laminate on top, so proper film covering for your model. It's much easier to put that covering on top of the clear laminate, and you could change it again potentially at a later date as well. So yeah, I'm new to this laminating lark. Frankly, it was a right ball bag, but it has come out really, really nice. Okay, am I likely to? No, if I had another one of these C1 Chasers, I would definitely laminate it. Okay, it has, there's a lot of benefits for that model. As far as like laminating, say, a Tech Sumo, for example, not going to do that, to be honest. Am I going to laminate that special wing which I had here the other day? Yes, I am. So it depends on the circumstances for the actual model itself. So yeah, lamination, royal pain in the ass, no other words for it, but the finished results do come out absolutely fantastic. Right, and next topic, where's my tabs up here? Oh my goodness me. Right, you're just not going to be able to see this. I had this arrive yesterday. Can you see that? Look, I'm going to put my thumb behind it. Can you see the bloody size of that? That is a FrSKy XM receiver. And it's absolutely tiny. In fact, I'm going to have to go and see if I can get some photos open for you so you can actually see this. It is bonkers small. Unbelievable. And keep in the back of your mind, that one spits out SBUS and it doesn't even register on the scales. The scales just go, ooh, it's not there, and stays on 0. Let me get some photos open. So, yeah, look at that. It's absolutely tiny. So it's just over 1.5 centimeters. Let's zoom in now, which is whatever that is in inches, just over half an inch or so. It's absolutely diddy. Now, for those of you which are looking at this almost caught me out because I had to check the manual for this one. It's that square one there. So you'll see these two have 0 round ones. So that bottom one there is ground. That one there is 5 volts, so that's normal. But the square one is the one which pumps out SBUS. And if we turn her over, and I need to get this right, we got the square one there. That one there is the RSSI out as well. But I don't know what the difference is between having RSSI on that pad compared to pumping out RSSI on one of your channels. Remember, we're dealing with SBUS here, and SBUS has 16 channels. So there's nothing stopping you from pumping out, obviously depending on your transmitter, but I know in the Tyrannus, you can pump out the RSSI strength on one of the channels, and I also know that in both in Betaflight and Cleanflight, that you can set RSSI to be one of your channels as well on the RX, on the receiver tab. So honestly, absolute shock. So yeah, weight 1 gram, which I think my scales just said 0. No, it still didn't even register 1 gram. It was nuts. Number of channels up to 16 from SBUS, channel 1 PDM, and channel 16 RSSI for flight controller on there. Voltage range 3.5 to 10 volts. You can chuck 10 volts in that. Nuts. Operating current 20 milliamperes at 5 volts. Operating range, this one gets me. 600 meters. 600 meters. That is absolutely perfect for all line of sight models. It's just unreal. Absolute bonkers. And by the way, let's just put this into perspective. Talk about pissing on your competition. They really did piss on that Range X receivers, because they came out with a product which was smaller, more capable, and had a longer range. And there's an XM Plus on its way as well. I'm absolutely shocked. Oh, and it works in FrSKy D16 mode as well. And apparently you can upgrade the firmware, but I was looking at the pins on here. And you must be slightly unhinged to have a go at those pins, because they're just, well, the little pads in there, absolutely tiny. And you won't be able to see it. And there's no point me trying to show you on the webcam. So, yeah, let me just zoom in there a moment. Right, that little funny orange thing, let me move this over here to make sure my head's not in the way. That funny little orange thing there is actually a push button. And I also think that looks like some form of power converter, but on there, I think that's the LEDs on the end. My only reservation on this one is that I've actually been nipped off the, we get some little, whoa, come back you, some little pokey legs to solder on there, which I'm definitely going to go that route so I can use a standard servo lead. But I did nip off the tops of those on there. My only concern is the actual fixing of this in the model. So what I'm actually going to go and do in mine is probably I'm going to spoil the 0 grams, according to my scales, and put some heat shrink over the top. But I will cut out the heat shrink beforehand to make sure I can get the LEDs to show, and I will also bind it before I put the heat shrink over the top, and I will definitely stick a little bit of hot glue down to make sure that antenna really does stay in place as well. But yeah, it turned up yesterday and I was like, what the fuck? It's so small. It's so small. Goodness knows what the XM Plus is going to be like. Yeah, I was like, what the hell? And I've said that so many times in this episode. But really, I'm absolutely amazed that for £7.90, and those of you with micro quads and whatever else, I'm there looking for my micro quad, which is gone. Hey, what? Oh, there she is. Those of you with micro quads, normal people who run theirs on 1S, that would definitely help you save some weight. Those of you which are not normal and run yours on 2S, which you should definitely do, because remember, motors are consumables, it wouldn't make a blind bit of difference really, because the amount of thrust you get out of these little motors on 2S, they're absolute skits. And yes, by the way, that is my micro quad. Yeah, it's well abused, and yes, the frame is backwards because that frame is utter crap. But I'm waiting to break the frame so that I can go and use the other frame which I've got. And I also do run mine on 2S as well, which you should not do unless you have the same view as myself, which is motors are consumables. I can assure you, I've got through a lot of these little brushed motors, and they do get rather hot. But on the flip side, it does go rather fast as well, which is definitely my cup of tea. So yeah, really, really good fun, these little things. Absolutely bonkers. And also, let me put this into perspective. Those motors, what do they cost? Like £1.50. I probably burn one out every 6 flights, something like that, which I know for many of you would be classed as unacceptable. But if you ever see the speed which this one travels at, you'll go, oh well, it doesn't really matter. I absolutely ragged the nuts off it, and I had good fun. So you just get the soldering iron out, dib, 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 job's a good one. So anyway, that's my mental micro quad. Really good fun. So there is also a XM Plus version of that coming out as well. There was three other things which I spotted yesterday and this morning. Number one, we do have the Micro SkyHunter as a kit now available. Those of you who want a pretty box with your order, you can now get a pretty box with your order, and for about £2-3 more for your Micro SkyHunter, because it still does work out cheaper to buy the parts separately. I did also spot the SkyHunter X5 Pro, and somebody suggested in the Facebook group that I should ask Banggood for a review version, and the honest answer is no. for that. The reason being is that there's no way in a Blue Monkey that I could ever suggest to you that you spend £231.49 on a model, because you can buy the EPO, or the white version from Hobby King for like 50 quid. In fact, we've seen them cheaper than that over time as well. So, no, why would you spend that amount of money for... Not happening. The other curiosity which I spotted on Banggood this morning was there's an F4 flight controller which is 20 millimeters, well, 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters, which is less than an inch. What's that in inches? About 3/4 of an inch square. And why am I getting excited about a little flight controller? Because it's an F4 flight controller. And then if we scroll down and take a look at that. So we've got on the top, so it's meant for beta flight. So you have your OSD connections on there. Look at that. That's mad. So it's got the built-in OSD. The one thing which I did spot is that you do have your signals out for your servos on the for your ESCs on the left, but you'll notice there's plus. So for the battery connection, you'd have to go off and go through probably a separate power distribution board underneath. That said, this board does take up to 2 to 4S, which I thought it was nuts. It was designed by the looks of it for SBUS straight out of the box, which again is very curious. Again, a board that big, it's going to be tiny with SBUS on there, so faster stick movements coming through to the flight controller, blah blah blah. Yeah, I thought it was bonkers, absolute bonkers. 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters for an F4 chip. And those of you which are wondering what the difference is, basically the NASA 32 board was using the F1 chip. Then we've had loads and loads of F3 chips coming out, and it's basically just floating point calculations, which is just basically nerdy version. It can do maths better. And if the board can do maths better, then it can do more stabilization better. That's the simplest way which I can explain it. And F4 is better than the F3, which is better than the F1 board. So the higher the F, the better the chip, basically. And I was absolutely shocked by that as well. So I'll put links to these different bits in the description. I'll also put a link to the XM Plus receiver in the description. I'm just like, that is so cool. And that can go 600 meters. Oh, by the way, those of you we should just clarify this. 600 meters, but it does spit out SBUS. Okay, there is no PWM output, so no directly connecting your servos to it. You would need some form of flight control board of some form in the middle to get your PWM signals out. So maybe a Pixhawk, a Pix Racer, an F4 board, or so F3 board, whatever, in the middle, which can take an SBUS input to be able to convert that signal out into movements for your actual receiver. By the way, would I personally use that receiver on a model like that? And again, because it's got the Eagle Tree Vector in the middle. The honest answer is frankly no. I would still go with an X8R or an L9R in that instance. And I know it's a bigger thing, but yeah, really meant for micro quads. That's probably what I'm just trying to say. It's more suitable towards quads, and that is absolutely bonkers. So on that note, before I go, there is a new episode going to be out later today, and balls deep with the micro SkyHunter. That episode which I mentioned, I'd get some commentary on there. Commentary all the way through. And yeah, wow. Going back and looking at that flight. And I've got so many other flights which we recorded that day. Yeah, I'm honestly, as a pilot, I am very, very happy with myself right now. There's another flight where with the Hornet FPV wing, I've only got DVR footage of this. And I went through every single one of the trees. real. Oh, and down Suicide Straight, which you'll find out what Suicide Straight is if you watch that episode later today. And I just went down. Absolutely unbelievable. And I'm so glad that I've got myself now to this skill level to be able to do that. And also, frankly honest, the wind conditions were like 2 miles an hour as well. Just perfectly calm day. And we were able just to... Wow. And I just hope that you can enjoy or have just part of the experience of what I had with the model. And if you don't like the commentary, just go mute it and just enjoy the flight, because wow, I just so enjoyed that. And there were so many obstacles for us and targets and things for us to point the models at. And there's a nice little bit where I'm flying and I'm just winging. I'm on Dave's, what's that, 7 o'clock, and just hanging back there, following him through. So anyway, I can talk forever. If you're out flying today, have fantastic fun. 50-50 if I'm going to be flying today. I was checking the weather earlier. What we got here in balmy Bristol, apparently it's going to be up to 14 degrees today with sunshine. Unreal. Well, cloudy as you like all morning, but between 2 and 3 p.m. this afternoon, it's going to be sunshine and lower wind. Brilliant. So, yeah, happy days. But on the bright side, it says sunrise at 8 a.m. and sunset at 4:02. 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh, bring back summer. I need more summers. And those of you in Australia and New Zealand or wherever, anyway, in the southern hemisphere, I am frankly very, very jealous of you because you're just going to be hitting your summer. And that's just amazing. I had so much fun this year in the summer. We've flown as much as I could. Yeah. So I am very jealous of you if you're out flying today. So with that said, from myself, Matt, it's time for me to make a move. Thank you ever so much for joining me for today's RC Coffee Chat. That episode will be out later today. I'll put links to the bits which we've discussed, and I will... That is just crazy. And I know the quad pilots out there, especially those of you with micro quads, are just going to go, wow. And I honestly was like, what the fuck is that? In fact, I'll probably have to edit out on the mail episode the RC Coffee Chat so I can get away with a little bit more because it's 0 edits. But wow. And that's all I'm saying. So for myself, Matt, thank you ever so much for joining me today. If you're out flying, have a great day. I've repeated myself. Apologies for that. And on that note, cheerios! Good morning. Yeah. Welcome to... Let's do that again.